welcome to Ebbie on Senior Living. I'm your host, Charles Ebbie Alfree III. Today I'm speaking with Ed Miller, the Senior Programs Manager at Sage Philadelphia at William Way. We will discuss challenges LGBTQ seniors face and the resources available to help them. Hi, Ed. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Hi, Ebbie. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so happy to have you on today and talk about this very important topic. Before we start, why don't you tell us about Sage and William Way?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Well, I'll talk about Sage. It's a national organization that's been around for, 45 years or more. It's the largest LGBT elder advocacy and support organization in the world. And so they have 30 affiliates across the country doing this advocacy work and support work for LGBT seniors. And the William Way LGBT Community Center in Philadelphia is one of those affiliates. So that's why we've been connected since, 2010, I want to say, or earlier, 2009, we've been an affiliate. And so it's just really a great connection to have. I talk to all people around the country on our monthly calls, so we get to hear what we're doing, different programs we have, what our fails are, what our successes. And so it's a great way to move forward the way forward to advocacy. So at William Way, we have senior programs. We have a whole host of programs for the LGBT community, but I am specifically focused on LGBT senior programming. And we call that, there's another name we have, not to confuse things, but we've just recently merged with somebody else's elder initiative. And so we're called the Elder Initiative at William Way. And that's our new name for our senior programs. And we just, we offer the opportunities for LGBT seniors to connect, to get with one another, to share resources, to hopefully meet people in their neighborhoods that they can, just be connected with. We know that LGBT seniors are 2 times less likely or as likely to be single, and they're 4 times less likely to have children. And so just on those two, I love those 2 clarifications because, so many of us have taken care of our parents. And so knowing that, we're 4 times less likely to have children. And I think in the country, there's about 80% or more that of children that are taking care of their parents as they age. So it just gives you an idea of where that gap is. As people age in the LGBT community, they've stayed around one another as their core group of support. And as that group starts to fall away, people going into retirement homes or people moving to Florida or passing away, that support group becomes smaller and smaller. Sure. And that's where we have all of these disparities that we're trying to advocate for LGBT seniors. So that's sort of the broad brush of our programs. We're designed to try to reduce isolation and improve community for LGBT seniors.
Sure. And I have to say, I first learned about Sage working at a senior living community, and Sage came in to do a program for us so we could be Sage certified, which is such a great opportunity for senior living communities to really gain a better understanding of how to better serve individuals who are in the LGBTQ community. And I was really impressed with all the information that we received. And, it's an interesting topic because sometimes we don't think about aging in the LGBTQ community. And I think, when you go through that type of a program, you really realize the disparities that are there for these individuals and ensuring how we can stop that from happening. Like you were just talking about isolation. And, one of the great things about living in a community, senior living community, is that you do have group activities and you are surrounded by other people. And it's important for everybody to understand how to integrate LGBTQ community in the greater community within these communities. And so with that, Sage is doing such a great job, like I said, with working with communities and such. But how does that work? How does a community get Sage to come there and work with them?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's I think you're referring to our Sage Care training. I'm one of the certified trainers that is able to do that training. I do the 4-hour training. It's sort of an all-day event, but yeah, anybody can go on the sageusa.org site. I'd recommend it to anybody who wants to learn more about LGBT seniors and the disparities that they face in healthcare and housing, and the financial impact that it has had on seniors who have not had opportunities, for example, to get the best jobs when they were growing up. And,
Sure.
But yeah, the Sage Care is great, and I'm glad you said that you enjoyed it, because it's provide you some information that you may not have had before, and it just opens up the conversation to think about, well, I guess some people say, well, I've never thought about LGBT seniors as, people as aging or having difficulties. And so that training really gives you the history of LGBT seniors, what challenges and ways they were discriminated against, especially LGBT people of color. And so when you come up in that kind of an environment, you become very afraid of, for example, worried about going to a doctor's appointment and having to explain that you're an LGBT senior. That's very frightening for some LGBT seniors, because in their lifetime they've been discriminated against or made fun of or bullied in school, and so that fear is still there, and so some people just won't go to the doctor, or they won't tell their health provider the whole story about their life, which is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So that training really opens up people's minds and hearts, we hope, to become more inclusive and more welcoming. And some of the takeaways of that training are, for example, if you're a healthcare provider or an assisted living community or a long-term care community, to put same-sex couples on your brochures, or to include LGBT inclusive language in your mission statement or in your, in some of the promotions you have. So we try to explain the history and have a look at the differences of growing up LGBT elder. And then we come up with we provide some best practices at the end. And then we sort of go through and dialogue those. And then we hope that people take away and implement some of these changes back at their community. So yeah, the Sage Care training is vitally important and one of the most focused things that Sage is working on right now, that in addition to housing and legislation. But I will say that some of the things that we've been working on in Philadelphia through our committees and the state, and of course AARP is one of our biggest allies and has worked with Sage to create some excellent reports that verify what I've just been saying. But there's some good news in California and I think in Maine, where there's been legislation, state legislation that says, you have to, long-term care facilities need to implement LGBT senior trainings into their programs by a certain time. And everybody in the organization has to be go through this culturally competent training. And it's such a great achievement to have that legislation. And it allows the people that really want and need the training to say, okay, listen, we have to do this now. You know, we're bound by this legislation, and so we're looking to, you know, follow suit in Philadelphia to have that type of legislation. And there's something called the Pennsylvania Fairness Act, which has been it's been around for 14, 15 years, trying to get it passed in state legislation. And that would make LGBT people, all LGBT people in the state of Pennsylvania, with the same rights as non-LGBT people. So we would be included in a number of things that we're not included with now. So yeah, so sorry the long-winded answer, but that training is really, really great.
It really is. And, you know, some of the things that I learned about were very disheartening. You know, when you look at healthcare and the increase of numbers of people in the LGBT community compared to the heterosexual community, at those disparities of the levels of mental health that LGBTQ seniors deal with more so than heterosexual individuals, and tobacco use and HIV. How can we work with doctors and healthcare providers to ensure that, you know, they are open to serving the LGBTQ community better to make sure they're, you know, meeting their needs?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways that we try to, of course, this training is out there and available, and there's many different models, and, you know, you can take, you know, just brief trainings online, or, I mean, with the pandemic, we're not doing in-person trainings, but certainly there's online trainings. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, sometimes it's baby steps. You know, we in Philadelphia have tried to encourage doctors and healthcare providers to let us know if they consider themselves culturally competent, and we give them some ways to suggest that they may or may not be. There's a great also the SAGE National and AARP have just come out with this excellent report, and it shows a lot about disparities and ways that we can support LGBT elders. And in the report, there's some great documentation. We know that you know, that LGBT seniors, you know, those health disparities come up because there's been, you know, a lifelong experience of discrimination. And that's where, you know, you have people that are afraid to go to the doctor, and then people that do go to the doctor and disclose that they're LGBT, medical providers are not as culturally competent or not as friendly, or people don't recognize themselves on the forms that they fill out at the doctors. Are you male or female? Are you, you know, they don't even ask if you're LGBT. And so that right away tells you that the medical provider may not be welcoming to you, or may not know enough about your life to talk to you about it. So we really are using AARP and SAGE, and they've created this, it's a way that it's from the HRC, that you can go on there and test your how your organization is LGBT friendly or not. So it's a great tool that we hope people will use. I think it's called an index. So yeah, the healthcare providers are coming along. Many are, you know, in Philadelphia, we have these excellent university hospitals, and they've done so much to create their own LGBT trainings and establish protocols and regulations. So a lot of people are ahead of the curve, and then a lot of people are not in touch. So that's the people that we try to work with and create some awareness.
Sure. And, you know, it's not even just a discrimination of, the sexual orientation and gender identity, but then you put on top of that ageism, and then also could be, race and creed and other, items that could cause discrimination against a person. So there's many levels to this, and doing the research for this, it really opened my eyes to really to make sure this information gets out there, because it's so important that we have to realize that there are so many parts to dealing with individuals who are LGBTQ besides just that and their age, but the race. And do you have, are there programs or are there any resources for individuals based on age, sexual orientation, gender identity, but also race, creed, other, types of things that set them apart?
Yeah, we try to connect with, we've recently connected with, it's called North City Congress. It's a advocacy and support group in North Philadelphia that their main population that they support are people of color in the aging community. And they offer, meals and programming. And they just recently hired an LGBT manager, which is really a new and unique thing for them to have. And so he is on board to try to do exactly what we've been talking about, create some awareness and some inclusion and a welcoming tone to that environment. And we know that people of color had more problems growing up because, especially men who were, thought to be the people who, procreated and had children. And so when people found out you were gay and you were not going to have kids, or more likely not to have kids, you were really turned away from the community and your church. And so there was, more, I guess, baggage, you would say, on people of color in that way, so that their communities were really tough on them. But so this connection that we've made with North City Congress is, we're working together, and after the pandemic, we want to bring some LGBT seniors to one of their lunches and sort of just, say, here we are, we're from the LGBT community, and it just opens up the conversation. And I've had some great success doing that at senior centers in Philadelphia. And it's amazing how, if you put it out there on the table, people really do respond. And they have questions, about their nieces or nephews, and some stories that they've struggled with. Some tell stories that they know their LGBT family members that have been, taken away, like they don't talk to them. And they just lost touch over the years. And so just putting some LGBT seniors in that environment and said, we're just like you, we're human beings, we live our lives, we work hard. And it just opens up a dialogue and allows people to, be more open and honest, and hopefully create awareness. So that's one of the things that we're doing. Certainly there's GLAE, which is the support for the Latino community, LGBT community, our executive director, and the LGBT leadership groups in Philadelphia, the Mazzoni Health Center, the William Wade Community Center, GLAE, Philadelphia Fight, and on and on. They all work together. We've been doing some great work on food and nutrition, for example, during the pandemic. We've just had a vaccination event at the LGBT housing in Philadelphia, where the seniors had the opportunity to get the vaccine. So we had the Mazzoni Center Health Group come in and actually were physically there in the community room, and we worked to schedule everybody, and people got their vaccinations. So just that connection is an example of how I provide programs and services, which are, birthday parties and things like that, and awareness sessions. But then to be able to connect with a healthcare provider to get this vaccination, it just shows you what happens when we work together, and you know, we can really it's just a good model, and we work together in Philadelphia to make sure we're achieving that.
That's great. And it also sounds like it's bringing opportunities for the seniors to engage, which is so important for all seniors, that they have the opportunity to engage with other people. Because as you talked about earlier, isolation is one of the issues that LGBTQ seniors deal with. But I mean, that is something, you know, I feel like all seniors have some issues with that, or could potentially have issues with that. And we know, you know, based on statistics and such, the importance of interacting with other people, and to have that support system. Because also with LGBTQ, you know, they've dealt with issues throughout their lifetime, and to be able to share that with others, and especially other people who might have dealt with similar situations, you know, that helps them. And, you know, it allows them to express themselves and, you know, understand they're not alone. Other people have gone through this. So to have programs that you're talking about and bringing people together and such, I just feel like that's so powerful and so important for them. It gives them a voice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's really I've just been amazed. I had another career before this one, and so even though I'm a gay man, I wasn't really tapped into the community and what the community does. You know, I lived out in the suburbs and just, you know, sort of kept in touch with the community and you know, just with my friends and relationships. But it wasn't until I moved to Philadelphia and started working at the community center that I became aware of all these issues that we face, but also all the things that are happening that people may not know about. The community center, we offer this, it's called Tuesday Mornings Out. It's a men's group. We only missed one session because of the pandemic back last year in March, but otherwise we just went online and we're Zooming every Tuesday morning, and we have guest speakers and discussion topics and a lot of travel logs. People will come on and talk about their travels, and it's just, you know, I just get so happy when I see all the faces come on the Zoom call. You know, we usually tend to get 25 or 30 people in person, but now we get about 15 people that are on this Zoom call. But they talk about, you know, a couple people we've lost in the last year because of health problems. They talk about what they're doing in their lives, what they're feeling, and celebrations that they've had. And so it's just been, you know, it just changes people's lives when they have an opportunity to talk to people that know who they are, and we provide resources. And of course, you know, many people come on and talk about how our connection with Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, for example, and how welcoming they are trying to make their organization. So yeah, you are absolutely right. These opportunities to get people together and to share their stories, it's just it's really fun, and they're a crazy group of people. You know, they have a ball. So yeah, we have some good times.
That's fantastic. Well, having those shared experiences that you can, you know, discuss, and, you know, it helps people to, you know, come out of their shell too. And when you hear what other people went through, and you can, you know, discuss your feelings and everything. And then, you know, hopefully also you're having some fun with the group too. So you're getting a good balance of, you know, making sure that, you know, you're able to express how you feel, but also find enjoyment, because again, that is, both of those items are so important for, you know, seniors, but all people actually. I mean, for
Right.
mental health, to be able to, you know, have those relationships and be able to feel comfortable with others to share. We're getting close to the end, and I feel like there's so much stuff that I still wanted to discuss with you. I know we brought up quickly the issues with income, and that, and savings and finances. And in research, I was reading that, many older LGBTQ individuals, they didn't feel comfortable going to financial advisors when they were younger, and maybe they didn't have the family to support them in understanding finances. What is it that seniors can do now, or what programs are available regarding financial
Yeah,
for our seniors?
absolutely. There's this new report. It's called Disrupting Disparities, and it's on the LGBT. It's on the sageusa.org website, and it's fantastic. It's with AARP, and they talk about things that we can do to make some important changes. But the health disparities, or the financial thing, is a struggle because people assume gay people are rich, and we're not at all. In fact, we've had less opportunities to have great jobs, or to be, many LGBT seniors have been, taken out of jobs because they found out they were gay. And so there's this new, during the pandemic, Sage connected with a bank in New York. I can't remember the name, but it's called Sage Sense, CENTS, for sense. And it's just a way you can go online and get connected with a financial person, and they take you through all these little things online. And it's not for, you don't get, you don't get discouraged about not having money. It just takes you through, and it identifies where you are, and then sort of gives you some ideas on how you can take steps to maybe create a little savings for yourself. And you get connected one-on-one with a live financial person that helps you through these. It's like 3 or 4 weeks of coming up with your with a financial plan. So there's things like that that really are designed to help LGBT seniors to find out where they are and what they can do to get some savings.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wish we had an hour. I feel like I have so much I want to discuss with you, and because this is it's an important topic, and a lot of great information that, really needs to be out there for the public to have and understand and know. As we're wrapping up, will you please let our viewers know how they can get additional information or contact you?
Yes, please. Again, my name is Ed Miller. I'm the Senior Programs Coordinator at the William Way Center. And my phone number the center's phone number is 215-732-2220. And my email address is emiller@waygay.org. And I would love to speak with providers or seniors to just talk, and have fun, and maybe provide some resources. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with me today, Ed. This was such a great conversation. And I want to thank everybody who watched today, and I will see you again next month. Stay well.
Thank you.